delighted to introduce our first speaker today. Pauline Miller is the current Chief Equity Officer of Dentsu International and former Head of Talent Development and Inclusion at Lloyd's of London. Pauline is revered as a change agent in the insurance sector. With over 20 years of experience in human resources, she has led the way for diversification in corporate environments and has since spoken on the importance of issues at events worldwide. Please put your hands together to welcome Pauline Miller to the stage.
So 20 years, that says that I'm definitely over 30. I have got my phone, but it's really because I'm slightly menopausal as well. So that really does tell you how old I am. And I might get brain fog. So, I am going to talk a little bit about diversity and inclusion. It's going to be a bit of a journey. Oh gosh, that's me. You probably don't want to see that. Not in double either, because it seems a bit odd, doesn't it, to see yourself twice. What I want to talk to you today is about how diversity and inclusion is currently shaping our mindsets, our organisations, and take you on a bit of a journey in 14 minutes and 26 seconds. So it's going to be a fast one, so buckle up. I, of course, have had, as we said, 25 years in people, in HR, in DEI, so very much in DEI. I spent 18 years in DEI particularly because I've really enjoyed it. And although Elon Musk says DEI must die, I think hopefully I'll still have a job. I've also spent a long time in insurance and in financial services. And so I'm hoping that what I say to you today when I talk about diversity and inclusion, that you'll hear that context of not just why diversity is important, but why is it important for you? So let's start with the external landscape. What does it look like externally? That's where we're going to go first. And I should probably just move away from there, shouldn't I? Making extra noise. So firstly, when we think about the external landscape, what we know is that we live in an increasingly connected world. We heard it earlier. We know that social media, technology, we didn't talk about AI, but AI is out there too. We know that technology in the world is really increasing. It's going to be a real challenge. That means information is readily available everywhere. It means that diverse communities who were never really connected before are now super connected at the touch of a phone. So we really need to think about how what looked like one homogenous population, how that's changed, because actually we're all working together and we're all connected and we're at the touch of a button or touch of a screen. We also know that diversity awareness and what diversity means has increased. When I joined Lloyd's of London in 2015, they sort of decided to have this festival and they called it Dive In. Anyone been? One. Oh, thank goodness. One person went. I'll tell you what was great about that. You've been talking about collaboration. Everybody said that it wouldn't work. And the reason it's still working, and they've just had their 10th year celebrating diversity and inclusion, is because the insurance firms came together to create that awareness around diversity and inclusion. And whilst it was driven from the specialty market, it has expanded more broadly across the London market, companies market. It is much broader now, and we are seeing lots of firms take the Dive In Festival and take it in a way that says, and it is the only festival, may I add, for insurance that is global, that is across 30 plus countries. And effectively, you know, you're talking something like 30, 40, I think they hit 50,000 attendees virtually this year. And why is it important? Because insurance was always seen as a slightly undiverse, fuddy-duddy style organisation. So of course, and sector. So of course, we need to be able to attract new people into the market. So that was really critical. But collaboration is what got us there. Long-term impact of the pandemic. We were just talking earlier about hybrid working. Oh, how great. Of course, what we know is that from hybrid working, people are now literally lying down, and I say this with real knowledge because I watched my daughter's boyfriend the other day, and he was literally lying on the sofa with the laptop on his, what? Yeah, like can you imagine what that's going to do for his back in the long term? Like, you cannot do that. You 6-foot+ person, you need to sit at a desk, and so we have that, but we also have the mental health pandemic. And we know that because, of course, we talk about everybody wants to work hybrid, the young people don't want to come in. Who said that? They want to go to work, they want to be able to build relationships and networks. But of course, being isolated in small spaces or not having people around you adds to that mental health challenge. And then finally, we know that there is a lot of political polarization out there. I mentioned Elon Musk, but he is, he's out there and he's tweeted it, so it's okay. I don't mind saying that. But people have been really concerned when we think about what's happening in the US with the change of tide from the election. We, in the diversity world, are slightly concerned. Well, I'm not, because I think I still have a job, but everyone else is slightly concerned. So the landscape is a real challenge. What does that mean for the demographics then? Because if the landscape's changing, we're still here, you're still here, people haven't changed. So let's talk about that demographic. Has it all come up? It has all come up, there we go. So forget the slow build now. We're just gonna go straight in. Aging population. It is a global megatrend. It is an absolute megatrend. Now, I now work in advertising. I'm still in diversity. In advertising, it's all about the young. It's all about young people. It's about who are the people that you're going to attract that will become your customers forever. That's what they want to know. And how do we attract the young? It's also recognised of who's on the screen. Well, actually, the world's aging, and by 2050, I think we've said there, 2050, it's going to have doubled, the 60+ population. So when you consider what does that mean from a protection perspective, what does that mean? What are the products that they are going to need in the future? If I take on to the next one, which is around, sorry, I feel like there. So if I think about the greatest diversity needs, not always visible. So think about the disabilities and the population of people with disabilities, 1.6 billion. 16% of the world's population has a disability. Now let's go one step further. Most people are not born with their disabilities. They acquire their disability either through an accident or through later life or through the aging process. And since we're all living longer, that's more likely. You all know this, yeah? But in addition to that, those that acquire their disability, when they are working, most often, within the first year, they lose their jobs. They are no longer employed by the company. Often the company will help them through the process, but then finding the ways or the processes for them to be able to, or the jobs for them to do, as if they couldn't do the job before. But okay, some jobs you can't, but there is a real challenge with retaining people with disabilities in the workforce after they acquire their disability. And then we talk about Gen Z, who cares? They're old. I tell my daughter that all the time. I've got a few Gen Zers in my house, so I feel like I'm really, really knowledgeable about the Gen Z population. I also own a millennial, but he lives in Australia. Now I'm really telling you how old I am. So, Gen Alpha, first generation, the digital natives. The ones who don't even understand the idea of not having a mobile phone. That's who we need to talk to. And I was really excited to hear this comment about TikTok because my daughter told me that TikTok's better than Google. And I find myself a bit of a Google queen because I love Google. I Google everything. I mean, I don't believe everything I read, but I do Google everything and go down those rabbit holes. She said, why would you Google when you can just find out about it on TikTok? What? So how are we talking to the younger generation? She does literally use it for reviews on everything. So Gen Alpha, interesting, because we need to think about how we talk to that generation. And then the final one there is about the pay parity. If you can't see it, it talks about gender parity, because we've been talking about women for ages, haven't we? 131 years until we achieve parity. And that is still some way away. So the demographics are really creating, they're shifting, they're changing, they look different. But the reality is we've got to think about who are all those individuals. Now, I'm looking across this room and I'm not going to suggest that you're old or young or in between. But how many of you have heard of a soft life? I knew you had. Oh, okay. Anyone else? Soft life? Yeah? Soft life. Okay, so there's a couple of people here that get it. Because if you're younger and you want to live a soft life, you don't want to be tied down by any of these mundane things like mortgages or maybe even jobs. So how on earth, because actually if you're a younger person, it's not only for youngers. Soft life means that you don't want to be constrained. Yeah, you want to live, you want to go travel, you want to do solo travel, you want to be able to live in the now and not be bogged down by the challenges of what they've seen of the generations before. Now, how are you going to sell products to them? How are you going to design products for them? How are you creating products that are maybe more portable in the way in which that younger generation, have a soft life or want to live a soft life? And if that becomes the digital natives as well, then we might very much be in trouble. So I was really shocked when I heard about soft life. I did not know about it at all. So what does that mean? Oh, sorry, gone too far. A couple of arrows when we talk about where are we going and what does that mean and what does looking forward mean for us. Now, I'm going to use my slides because I want to be able to tell you a couple of data points, which I think is really interesting. So earlier this year, the company I work for produced a report which you can go and look at online. I'll just say that. It's DEI and consumer brands. And the idea is we wanted to understand what does it mean for a consumer when they think about diversity and inclusion? Does it influence their decision-making process? Does it influence the brands that they choose from? Now, the spoiler is it counts for about 10%. Why? Because of course, when you buy something, if you need a pair of shoes, you need to make sure it's shoes. If you're buying a financial product, it needs to be able to do what it does, what it says. Electrical products needs to be able to cool whatever in the fridge, etc. So the practical need typically, and then the cost outweighs the decision. But what we are seeing is that diversity and inclusion can influence the consideration of a brand as much as 52%. 52%. And what they mean by that is if the organisation, if the company that you're buying from, the company that you want to align yourself with, is engaged in diversity and inclusion, is authentic in the way in which it's developing its products, the people that work for them, it can influence your choice by 52%. Okay, that's the first stat. Of course, we're going to say stats quicker now because I'm at 3 minutes. Gosh, right. So in addition to that, what we also know is that DEI is more important amongst the Gen Z and the millennial population. You would expect so, especially if you think about the shifts that we've had around climate change, ESG, etc. So we know that, but it's not just about the younger population. Minority groups, such as those from Christian religion, ethnic minorities, they are also placing a higher importance on companies that are committed to diversity and inclusion. And then finally, just for those that are like, I don't fit any of those groups, if you've got children, also, you are being influenced, especially with those under the age of 18. So you think about the 15-year-old coming in, they are influencing for you to think about who you buy from and where you purchase. So this isn't a one-generation solution, it's all generations. And we know that the older generation particularly are really open to learning from that younger generation. Multi-generational because our joy, or what we align to and what we value is actually very similar. It's not that different. We talk about pitting the generations against each other. From a diversity perspective, actually, it isn't that different. Some of those values, when you think about the top 4 or 5 things that you value and then the younger person values, they are the same. Okay, so I'm going to speed on a little bit more and say, what does that mean? So corporations continue to be conflicted. Why are corporations conflicted? Because they are worried about shareholders. They're worried about the outbursts of individuals. Walmart just yesterday announced that they are distilling their diversity, equity, and inclusion programs. Now, in fairness, it probably doesn't surprise, and certainly doesn't surprise me, because diversity is cyclical. It means that different things happen in the world, a bit like, a crisis comes along, and then we think about what more do we need to do. So whether that's Stephen Lawrence 30 odd years ago, or whether that's George Floyd, or whether that's #MeToo, or like they had in insurance, the Bloomberg article that took some time to dispel. But those are the types of things that happen that shifts organisations, shifts individuals' thinkings, and shifts what you do next from a diversity and inclusion perspective. So we know that corporations are scared, but we also know that nobody chose not to do something because you were supporting diversity. It's when you support it badly. That's when the problem lies. The second thing is that we know regulators and governments, and I know you've got the FCA review coming out. Another life, I'd probably tell you more about that, but and what I think about their views on how they run these processes, but I'm sure you all have that. You can talk about that over lunch. But the FCAs, the PRAs of the world, etc., they are all thinking about how they continue to hold you to account for how you sell, how you make decisions, and how you treat your people. Okay. And then finally, this final one here is around people and consumers. And I've just given you the stats. Consumers expect this. They are expecting you to devise products that meet their needs. And because it's so much more diverse now, it's not simple enough to think about me as just a woman. It's not simple enough for you to think about one type of, whether that's a health condition or whether that's one type of industry, because actually most people have got portfolio careers. The younger generation all want to start their own roles. They either want to be TikTokers or something similar, or influencers. But if you think about that, how does that fit into the traditional and standard style of products that we have out there at the moment? I can say that I'm encouraging my kids to do insurance, so you're welcome. They've got quite a few, and I do tell them they spend a lot of time with me because that is really important from my perspective. But this is an opportunity, and it's an opportunity for you as designers of products, as sellers, as advisors, etc., for you to be able to think about, how do I provide a product to that individual? And that is where I will probably leave it and simply say diversity is about difference, but it's about the individual difference that counts. And my final slide simply says, it's an opportunity. It's an opportunity for you. It's an opportunity for leaders to evolve and be leaders. It's not ours, it's yours. And that's where I'll leave it.